Okay, so we are going to talk about, we don't usually do this, but we're going to do a vlog on a show we watched, went all the way through Netflix called Disenchanted.
I was disenchanted.
Oh, I thought you were going to say disappointed, because that's what all the videos say. They just, in big letters, like, disappointed.
Hey,
you know, that's
newsflash.
always like they do.
You're not clever if you make that joke.
Yeah, I feel like, so, okay.
I'm not clever for making it. Set myself up there, didn't I?
But, no, okay, so this is obviously from Matt Groening, who did Simpsons and Futurama.
Where did those shows go? Nowhere.
Nowhere at all.
Not a pedigree really to start strongly on.
But it's fine, because Simpsons, even though a lot of people are like, it's not that, funny anymore, it's going on too long.
Early Simpsons
it's still,
was great. Yeah.
No, but it's still
I'm joking.
It's still
I think
on.
Matt Groening's pedigree is amazing, so.
No, it's still on, and he didn't do The Critic, but a lot of the people who did The Simpsons did The Critic, and, that was very good. And Futurama it was never a huge hit, but then it got canceled, and a lot of people wanted it back, so they brought it back.
It's a cult favorite.
Yeah, and that was it. It was like, and it went okay, but it still didn't have the huge hit ratings that it wanted, even when they brought it back. But you're right, it's a cult.
It's Simpsoned out a little bit, but nowhere to the same spectacular degree. Because Simpsons is trash right now. Like, it's just scraping bottom of the barrel. But, Futurama, I think even in its last, gasps and the movies and stuff, I was like, I still found it pretty funny.
Well, and Futurama,
but
is
it
very
definitely
much about...
it was like Simpsons, though, where there was like this span of a few years where it's like, wow, everything just was perfect. But
well, now what I like about Futurama, even though I do have issues with it, is that it was very much about ideas. Here's just a future where you can kind of do anything, and I really like that. So I get really excited for Disenchanted. And the reviews for it have been kind of up and down. And the short version of it is that I like the way it started, I like the way it ended, and for a while I kind of felt like I was watching it out of obligation, like, well, okay, I like Matt Groening, I like, this animation, this style of humor, let me just get through it, because, there's never been an awful episode, like, that was trash, that was really, really bad, and then when I got to the end, I'm like, I'm glad I watched all of that, and I really want more. I'm actually kind of angry where it stopped because I'm like, oh, you were just getting going. So I have issues, but I'm glad I sat through it. There was never an episode where I'm like, there was no laughs. There was always a couple laugh out loud moments with each episode.
So I watched it a little bit late because so many people I knew had already started watching it. And it was like nearly universal. It's just not that good. It's just... I'm on I think when I asked you at what point, I said, what are you on and what do you think? He's like,
I was like halfway through.
Yeah, you're like, I'm on episode 7 and like there was one funny thing, but it's really not, you're like,
Oh, like a full episode that was funny.
Yeah, you were really like, and everybody I know is just like, no, it's terrible. I had one person who's like, Matt Groening should know better because he's done better things, and there's no excuse for this because Futurama was clunky early on. You shouldn't make... I argue that's actually why you would make that mistake, is if you've done this before and now you're trying to do this on Netflix, because some things just don't translate to Netflix like they do on network television where you watch it just once a week. But, so I went in with lowered expectations, like really low. I'm like, wow, okay, well, this is gonna suck. I guess I'll just give it a try for a lark. I think that helped me out because I think I enjoyed it a lot more than other people did just because I thought, well, this is gonna be just terrible. And with those zero expectations, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty funny. Yeah, it's clunky. Like, there are a number of jokes. It was like, particularly the first episode, it's like, it was very 50-50. 50% of the jokes hit, and the 50% that didn't were just like awkward.
Kinda awkward,
I call them silence bombs, where it's like you could hear the crickets chirping, and like they're waiting. It's like they're giving that pause for you as the audience member to laugh, only you're sitting there not laughing.
Now here's a little bit, I'll say what I kind of liked almost about that, is that I find there's a big difference between Simpsons now and Futurama and these Matt Groening shows and Matt Groening's sense of humor. Matt Groening's sense of humor, especially if you read like Life is Hell, and stuff like that, his satire's a little more vague. Something like the suicide boost in Futurama, that feels very Matt Groening. There's a line in the first episode where the elf goes, "So this is war. I don't love it. You know, that's very Matt Groening, where a lot of the humor is very much we're gonna satirize church, we're gonna satirize that, like, you know exactly the specific thing it's satirizing, and that's great too. That's what Simpsons does. That's what Futurama does a lot of the time.
That's not the problem.
I kind of
that's not the issue.
Oh no, I'm not
at
saying
all.
that. I'm saying that I actually could have used more of that as the show progressed. And then the other thing I could have used that we finally get near the end. We get in the beginning and then we get near the end, and the middle just leaves a lot of it out. Is a continuing story, which I thought for Netflix especially would have been really exciting and really cool.
Again,
and we only get at the beginning and the end.
He's old school. He is stuck in the mindset, I think, still of, oh, well, it's like Simpsons or Futurama. You know, we got some filler episodes, we do this, we slowly weave a story as time goes on. And you're right. On Netflix, when you're binge watching something, it doesn't work because you're watching, a lot of people watch these things all in a row, and that's when the cracks start to show, like, God, this is taking forever. But the satire and stuff, that's not the problem. It's just, it's bad comic timing. It's as simple as that. A lot of the jokes, particularly in episode 1, and then on and off through a lot of the middle episodes, are just poorly timed and executed. Like, it's just, they're poorly cut, they're not well put together, and they have these awkward silences afterwards. Like, the writers were just like, this is gonna be hilarious, and we gotta give time for the audience to laugh. And nothing, I just sat there just in awkward silence, like, wow, that joke didn't land. But the weird thing is, there are jokes so perfectly cut and timed in this that I just lost my shit and, like, had to pause it because it was so perfect. And they would happen, like, just randomly. Like, I thought episode 2 was really pretty strong. The episode with Hansel and Gretel.
That's my favorite, yeah.
Was amazing. When the story kicks in, the final episode itself isn't that funny, but the two leading into it, when the story, you know, kicks in, like, those 2 episodes are very well put together and cut and had great comic timing. So, but that's the thing. I remember that being an issue with early Simpsons and early Futurama. Like, they both...
Especially with early Futurama, I recall.
Yeah, they both did that, and it's like, I don't know if that's Groening's fault or if this is just the first season of most things are just working out the kinks. But I felt slowly they got better at it. It was still inconsistent, particularly in the middle. But by the last 3, I was on board. And even though the last one wasn't that funny, it was okay because the plot made up for it. I'm like, okay, I'm invested in this plot now.
And
like,
that's kind of what I'm getting to with, you know, with the first one, even though I know what you're talking about with some of the humor and stuff where it's like, okay, you're supposed to laugh at that, and if you don't, there's this long, awkward pause. But then other scenes where it's like the humor, it doesn't feel like, some of the jokes don't feel like it's supposed to be a zing like that. It's kind of like, that's just kind of, like, it's supposed to be a little awkward. It's supposed to be a little off. And I was liking that because I haven't really seen Futurama or Simpsons really do that. Maybe early Simpsons a little bit. But then you're right, it goes right into the traditional Simpsons stuff where it's like joke. And you're right, if they don't hit, they leave these kind of long pauses.
That really dry style awkward of writing, I love. So when he did it right, it was fine. It's just, there were so many times where it's just like, it's not that, oh, well, he's trying something new and it's satirical. It's just, it's a poorly delivered joke.
Yeah, and I think when, with the character...
Like it when it's really super dry. Like, some of the best stuff was the dry stuff. Or even like one of my favorite lines is just... it was the Hansel and Gretel one. It's like some crack about they're obviously going to be... It's like, yes, and soon we'll be having you for dinner. Hee hee hee. Shh. Don't give up the game. You know it makes people nervous when Germans laugh. Like, it's like little lines like that. Like, so I love bits like that. Or
I was gonna say what's so weird. Okay, like with the continuing story, even like when it would start. Okay, so the episode starts off very kind of conventional, especially with the Bean character, where it's like she's gonna marry someone she doesn't love. Seen that a million times. But she's gonna go off somewhere and gonna find, like, the Wishmaster, which honestly builds up to a joke that's not very funny, but they're traveling, they're going somewhere else, and I'm thinking, like, well, this is cool, now they're gonna go from different place to different place. It's gonna be Middle-earth
road trip, yeah.
Yeah, and they just go back to the kingdom, which is not a very interesting place, and the best episodes are where they go somewhere else usually, with the exception of the last couple where they do this continuing story. And the continuing story, even, like, when they sort of start out of nowhere, like suddenly the king is saying, you mean we can get the elixir of life? And it's like, where did that come from? But you do see it does work into the story, it works in very well, but just out of nowhere, he brings it up, and it's one of those things where I felt like if you didn't just do these filler episodes and you did tie it into this continuing story and they did travel more, it would have been really, really interesting. It would have been a lot better.
That's the weird thing, though. Watching the final few episodes, I was like, wow, a lot of things I thought were filler came back.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, they just sort of dropped them in, and they should have been worked in more organically.
And I like the fact that they came back, the witch's house surrounded in police tape.
Yeah.
No, I agree, because I thought, oh, we're going to go explore the kingdom, and there's a full map here, and I see what they're doing, because at the end of this, they're implying, oh, she's going to see more stuff season 2.
Yeah.
She'll be out of the kingdom.
I really want to see a season 2.
And in retrospect, I do too.
Yeah, but like with the problems fixed.
In retrospect, I don't mind staying in the kingdom. You just needed to make that kingdom a little more interesting. And there's funny things in it that I really enjoyed, but it just wasn't quite enough. But I mean, there were still funny things. It reminds me of like Secret of Monkey Island, like that style of humor where we're gonna take like this period in history in Monkey Island. It's like the Caribbean and pirates, and in this one it's like medieval fantasy, and like the news guy was always killing me, hear ye, and so I don't know, I enjoyed that, or the drinking the ferry, like the spoof of Chasing the Green Fairy. It's like, it's okay, honey, I go down smooth. Like there were so many like little jokes like that I'm like, okay, those really work. It just needed more punch, and it needed that kind of later Futurama, and I'm not going to say later Simpsons, but later, like
mid-Simpsons,
seasons 4, 5, 3, that level of quick timing, quick cutting. There were just too many long stretches between some jokes, and the plot wasn't supporting it. When the plot supported the final episode, it was fine. Final episode's not very funny, but the plot carried all the weight. In the middle part of this series, that doesn't happen, with the exception of there's a couple episodes. I do like the one where she throws the party and the Vikings invade.
Yeah.
And I do like the Hansel and Gretel episode, was very good. But I remember it was episode 3. An episode I can't remember.
I was going to say, if I remember around 3, 2 is where I'm like, something's off.
And that's what kills me. It's just like, I cannot even tell you what happens in episode 3. All I remember thinking was, all of a sudden I was like, uh-oh. Because at first I was like, oh, it's pretty good. The first one was okay, and the second one was really funny. And then I was just like, uh-oh, maybe this is what people are talking about, because I was like, that didn't do anything for me, and I cannot remember what even happened.
Episode 3 is why I remember, like, something's off. This is not what we started with. And it comes back, it goes back and forth. Anyone I talk to about this show that gets all the way through, nobody I know loves it. Only if you go online do you find people who hate it, in my opinion.
You know what it is?
I think because they want to,
I think it's the return.
Get really angry.
I think it's the Return of the Jedi of cartoon shows, where people really, really love certain scenes, but then, there's like Ewoks.
Yeah,
like,
but
there's
it's like
something
when you
else
get to the
that
end, it's
bothers
like,
you, but you love the
like,
parts you love so much.
If you stick with it, like, it does get somewhere. And sadly, where it gets to is not like a big punch. If anything, I was really pissed off, because I'm like, no, I really want to see more, but not in the good way, not in the way that's like, oh, that left me satisfied. It's like, we really should have been focusing on more of this throughout the entire show. But I do really want a season 2. And I think if they are going to do sort of the slower pace humor, they need jokes that reflect it. And if you're going to do more of the fast-paced stuff, again, you need jokes that reflect that. There's kind of half and half. You got to pick one and go with it.
Slower paced humor. One of the best jokes in the whole show, and it was the first joke that just made me lose my shit. I had to pause it. And it's like a triple setup. And it takes its time, and it builds, and it's amazing. An example of when you do the slow humor right, because it's a joke that keeps building, and they're trying to drain, it's episode 2, they're trying to drain Elfo. It's like, well, we can't do that. Well, we'll drain the pig instead and claim it's Elfo's blood. So they bring this pig up, they stick it in and start filling this big flask. And, Elfo's really small. Jump cut 1, cut to the next day, and the first jump cut is the flask is like just overflowed with blood. Jump cut to the wizard. Wow, that is way more blood than I thought we were going to get out of that little elf. Jump cut again, and everybody in the tower is literally in like 6 inches of blood.
Yeah.
Wading through it like a kiddie pool. And then cut to the king, just like, looks like I picked the wrong day to wear galoshes. Sploosh, sploosh, sploosh. I just lost it because it kept building because I'm like, oh,
we should make it clear, it's pig's blood.
It's pig's blood.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's one pig. I think it was several pigs.
I think it was one pig.
Just one. Yeah, it kind of makes it even funnier.
But Yeah, just that jump cut. I was not expecting them to keep building the joke, and then that jump cut to just the whole room, just blood everywhere. It was perfectly timed. Like, I laughed out loud super hard at that. And, like, that is a slow joke that really, really works. And there's a few of them in there like that.
Yeah.
So I hope they keep, like, that kind of thing up. And again, it was perfect comic timing.
I think, too, with, like, you know... Again, when they try something new, it's weird. When they kind of get that Simpsons timing in the Simpsons joke, I can't act like I don't like it or it doesn't get a laugh, but I kind of liked it more when it's getting away from the Simpsons. Like, the design of that Lucy character is not like any other Simpson design, which is great. The whole idea of, like, you know, this continuing story, I mean, I guess they did a little bit with Futurama with, like, the relationships, but there's never been, like, a full continuing story that went over, like, the season. I like that, too. And again, even kind of the vague humor at the opening with, like, the war joke and stuff, I kind of like. So it's one of those things where it's like, I kind of like want to say, keep taking the risk, keep trying something a little different with like the second season
here. And I don't want to crap on voice actors because I think they're all amazing, but I did not like the King's voice at all. I'm like, it's Bender. It's the John DiMaggio doing Bender. Like, you can be like, well, it's not exactly Bender. It's really close. And it's really distracting. And then when you have an art style by Matt Groening, who did Futurama and Simpsons, and you bring in Billy West playing, and then Maurice LaMarche, Tress MacNeille, and like Tress MacNeille, I love. Really distracting though, because it's like you just hear, it's like, oh, there's Ralph Wiggum, or there's the crazy cat
Nancy
lady.
Nancy Cartwright does Ralph Wiggum. Thank you very much.
What?
So she only does like side characters on The Simpsons.
She was the crazy cat lady.
Yeah, she's the crazy cat lady.
And she does that again. As the witch, and then Maurice LaMarche, who I love Maurice LaMarche, he's one of my favorite voice actors, but it's him just doing that Futurama character he
like
did
the mother's
with
kids or whatever.
Yes, mother. It's all the same sort of voice. Now I'm an evil wizard, I guess.
And it does make it tougher to accept it as something else. Because you're constantly hearing Futurama.
It's really distracting, and I kind of wish, like, because particularly, like, honestly, I'd say all of them. All of them have incredible range. And, like, somebody like Maurice LaMarche, it's like, you're the director. You could have said, give me something different. This is a guy who did Dizzy Devil. Like, he can do, like, all sorts of voices, and it's just, I'm just doing my Maurice LaMarche thing, like, from the other. It just, that's really distracting. That's what makes it feel like everybody's like, it's Futurama light. And I'm like, man, if I change the voices, it's not as bad. And then, obviously, the animation style kind of is, but I'm just like, a lot of it to me is just the voice work sounds so familiar if you've seen Futurama.
I think that's why, like, the character that probably gets the most laughs is the Lucy character.
Because there's nothing like that on...
that's just the dude's voice.
In theory, there actually is, and this is where I think the voice acting is detrimental. Like, I go, well, the king, it's Bender. And yet, really, the true Bender character is Lucy. He's actually the Bender character from... But with the new voice, you kind of, like, I didn't even think about it till, like, halfway through. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess he is, like, an enabling smoking drink. Like, he's really probably more the Bender, while the King's just, a slob or whatever. But so, yeah, I think that's a problem that... It can't be fixed now. You're just going to have to come up with writing around it, but...
There's a tough spot they're in, too, where it's like there's two characters in particular. One big time, they're just okay, where I was just like, I see what you're trying to go for, but man, you didn't go all the way. The one that's like, it worked out okay, it was Bean, because, that's supposed to be the party animal, and I feel like it would have been funnier if they just went full Lindsay Lohan with her. Like, just the absolute satire party fest. So then when you get to the sentimental moments, it's a little bit more
surprising. I thought that episode where she got drunk as the ambassador, that was pretty damn close. Hanging naked upside down from
No. I wanted more of that. I wanted to get even crazier and even
waking
goofier.
Up and getting dumped in that. I don't know.
I feel like they want her more to be kind of like the emotional center.
She's gotta be sympathetic,
and that's what I mean. And it works. But I would have liked it more if they went all the way, and then the sympathy kind of comes in a little bit more naturally, but they're like, nah, we want to make it where
she was
like,
a surprise, because, and this is common in a lot of pilots, I did not like her voice in episode 1. But it grew on me pretty darn quickly, so by about, the end of episode 2, I'm like, oh, it's alright, and I don't even notice it now, but I remember thinking early on, I was like, I don't know if her voice is doing it for me.
Elfo
Elfo is the biggest one.
That's the one for me. Okay, no, I'll tell you the biggest
Where I'm like,
problem.
I kind of like it in spurts, and then I'm just like, oh god, sometimes I'm just shut up.
When I first saw this character, I mean, you're right about the voice. It does get grating after a while. But when I first saw this character, I got really excited because literally first time
he
you see
wants
him,
to be dark.
Yeah, and he's got this conveyor belt, and he puts himself on the conveyor belt. This girl elf is like kissing him all, then gets to him and kisses him, and they start making out. And, no, that's not our way. And he says, I want to be cynical. I want to like mean things. I want to be miserable. And
what
love
happened?
this idea. Yeah, I want to see him go into the land. I want to see him meet up with Lucy, and Lucy maybe like teach him wrong things or in the bad way about how to be bad. And you can have this great parallel with these two, the one who knows bad things and the one who wants to learn bad things. But because he knows bad things, he's constantly sabotaging him, or maybe teaching him good things. Like, you could do so much with that. And as soon as he gets to the real world, he gets out of his little flute. Oh, what's this place? Hello, hi. And it's like, where did that character go?
I will tell you. It's called writing yourself into a corner. And they had two characters then that would have been like that. Because Lucy is already doing that.
No, but I feel you could have had enough variation because he's learning. And I feel like this guy already knows where this guy would be learning, so he could constantly be sabotaging him.
The problem is Lucy is already teaching her how to be bad. So Lucy's gonna teach the elf how to be bad then? Or Bean's gonna teach the elf how to...
Wouldn't that be something they could all bond over too, like the three of them? Wouldn't that just make them tighter? Because they're already kind of the outcasts?
I think, I will say this, it was a bad setup, but the reason they dropped it, I think it would just get redundant really fast, because like, well, then... This is all the same shit.
I feel like with good writing, you could have that sort of like be the one common denominator that like binds them together.
I think the second they put Lucy in, they suddenly realize that, shit, this is gonna like...
No, because that's what I thought too. But
really
then I'm like,
redundant.
I feel like you can make it work. Because after a while, and even like, it's like,
but
you could have it where it's like he's happy, but he really wants to learn this stuff. At least have him wanting to learn that stuff. And he does it. He just drops it. He's just constantly happy. Well, you shouldn't do that. Well, you shouldn't want to do that.
Here's the thing.
And that doesn't work.
We're already 12 episodes into it. How long do you think you're just going to be able to pull that off? Well, he still has to be happy because you actually need... Think about it. You do need a kind of happy foil.
But
he wants to learn. So for 12 episodes, he's going to learn, but still be kind of happy, and this is going to continue through the rest of the series. Like, I love Lucy.
I would like that. I would watch that.
No, that's cool.
See, I would like, and him...
That would get boring so fast.
And even, not just comedically,
because
but dramatically, that could be interesting. Again, with the three of them.
It wouldn't go anywhere, because you can't have him be truly unhappy, because then you've got... Basically, they're all the same.
But maybe that's not what he learns. Maybe he discovers that, like, you know what? Maybe there is something to kind of being nice, but like, in a fair amount, not 24/7, like where he came from.
12 episodes. I will say this. Yeah, no, that wouldn't fix it. I'm just not sure Elfo's a fantastic idea to begin. Like, the elves themselves are really funny. I just feel there needed to be some other angle.
You know what? Even if he's coming from there and he is just
if you want to do that, that's
character,
fine. Then you don't need
have them be
Lucy.
Exact opposite, like an angel and a devil. If you want to do that with
Lucy,
Bean.
The beauty of a character like Lucy is you can continue that on indefinitely, and it's still funny because
you can see what they're doing. Where he's like, "What? Did I help someone? Ooh, where's this coming from?" You know where they're gonna do with that.
But
he's still a lot of fun.
He's still Well, Bender was kind of the same way. Like eventually, sometimes he'll do the right thing.
Yeah.
So he's. I feel like Lucy is chaotic neutral. But Lucy's my favorite character in the whole thing, and it's an easy character. It's slightly lazy because it writes itself, but that character you can go on and like I don't think Elfo is the. Well, he wants to learn how to be bad. It's once they set it up that you got two miserable characters already, Lucy and Bean, and most other people seem miserable. It's like Elfo provides some of that little glimmer of hope, and I just don't see it going anywhere.
I feel like you could have had that.
Like if you make him like, I want to be dark.
Like maybe he rubs off on them the goodness, while they sort of rub off on him sort of the bad and living a bit. It's like I feel like there was more.
I feel
it
would be much. The only way I would see this working is it'd be much funnier if, in trying to be bad, he always just ends up still doing good.
Yeah, something like that. That's fine.
That might be
something like that.
But he's definitely I feel like he's definitely the weakest character, even though the elves are frickin' funny as hell.
Yeah.
That episode where they went like to war. The second they whipped out, like, spoiler alert, I guess, the second they whipped out the candy canes with the swords,
Yeah.
I was just like, yes! This is like evil
and they
Ewoks.
pile on top of each other to like stab the giants. Is that Well, it's just a funny idea too. No, or what's it? Gnomes. Oh no, you're right. When they have the little battle later.
No, Elfo's problem is he's the Seinfeld of the show, which is what makes him funny is everybody like reacting off of him. Like, I don't even know if Seinfeld's a good comparison, but it's like when Lucy's talking about Elfo, when Bean's talking about it, when they talk about what a klutz he is, when they, are basically thumping on him and like doing awful things to him. That's what makes Elfo funny. Elfo himself to me isn't that funny. It's just more everybody's reaction to him. Like that bit where he does like the Hobbit tracking. Lucy does the Hobbit tracking. It's like, yeah, he rolled down this hill, walked straight into this tree, then he walked over here straight into this other tree, then he tripped, cried a little, then lost a shoe to this deranged squirrel, and the squirrel's like, and runs off with a shoe. Judging by these height marks, I think Elfo licked the house here. Like, that stuff was hilarious. And the funny thing is, you never saw Elfo do any of it.
Yeah.
It's all descriptions.
Well, and again, we won't get into spoilers with this, but I knew something had to be working with this show when I got to those last 3 episodes, and there was 2 legit surprises to me. I think it was like the third to last or second to last. The first one involving the they sent around the statue of the mother, and those that have watched the show know what I'm talking about. So that was one surprise, and then there's also a surprise where the main character has to make a choice, and it's not like the obvious choice that you hear all the time, like Spider-Man, will you take the children or your girlfriend? And so
that was the one and only surprise in the whole show.
No,
everything else, and everything after they have all these other twists in the final episode, and all of them you can predict 1,000 miles away.
They're still interesting. But you're right.
They're not bad, but it's very just like, okay, I see exactly what they're going.
But
I know who did it. Like, almost
but the
instantly.
choice the main character has to make.
That was actually a surprise.
I was shocked that choice was being suggested in a show like this. In a show like Simpsons, maybe Futurama would try something like this, but I mean, like, never really seen a choice like that. And then when the choice is made, I'm legitimately surprised. And when you see kind of what they do with it, and even kind of what they end the season on, I'm like, well, okay, this choice is made, but something has to happen here before this season ends, and it doesn't. And nope. I'm sure they'll do it in the next season, but it's one of those things where I'm just like, or if they really had the balls, they would not do it in the second season.
Actually,
that'd actually be fascinating.
Considering what we were just talking about, maybe that would be the better idea to go.
That'd actually be really fascinating. But it's one of those things where it's like, by the time I got to the end, I'm like, okay, I want to see a season 2 of this. I actually really do want to see a season 2, but I want to see it with some of these changes made.
Overall, the style of comedy, like, I think my favorite episode outside of 2 and then Hansel and Gretel was that first one that kicked off the plot. Like, it was like episode 9 or something. It was like about 3 episodes from the end.
Where they kind of have the Zelda thing where they go into the desert.
Where they go into they follow, like, there's an outline on a map and they go from place to place. I'm like, finally, adventuring.
Yeah.
Like, we're finding hidden treasure and shit. And that was an amazing episode. Overall, like, yeah, I'd say that the humor is very dry, very Monkey Island-ish. When it works, it really, really works. There's some great visual gags all throughout the thing. But yeah, I think what I love most about the show is how ruthlessly, mercilessly, and needlessly dark it is. It's very reflective of medieval times. It's like, life is cheap. And like, they're just throwaway jokes where she pulls the lever and people always fall into the ocean when you pull the lever. It's the castle's over the ocean, and Lucy's like, wow, you murdered them in cold blood. Nah, they'll just fall into the ocean. They'll be fine. You just hear this thud, 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 thud. Oh, I guess the tide was out. Oh, well.
like that's my favorite stuff, too. Or like just the severed heads and the pikes. I could have used even more of that.
Yeah, severed heads on the pike, the elves going to war, the pig's blood scene.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, I think we both agree where
the poisoned water fountain that I was just getting nauseous. It's like, oh.
It's one of those things where it's like, the more you can kind of distance yourself from Simpsons, with the exception of the comic timing. I think that's the one thing you can keep from Simpsons.
Keep the comic timing.
And Critic and Futurama and stuff.
Keep it and then make it dark, because Futurama had a few episodes that were dark.
Yeah.
The dog one. Still, I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. The one where Leela keeps like hallucinating and Fry's coffin is out in space. There were a few where it got like, wow, it's kind of spooky stuff. But for the most part, I didn't find Futurama excessively dark.
No, and this one feels like you can go that barbaric.
The episode where Bender was God to people living on his ass.
That was a good dark one.
And that was a good dark one. But it's just like the Simpsons weren't quite allowed to do that. This one, I'd say, keep going with the darkness because that's what makes me laugh the most. And Lucy's a great character for that. And then just the wanton death and destruction. The number of side characters that are just like the knights. We've lost many good knights, and it's true. They don't come back. They're just dead, and they die often in comical ways, which is, I enjoy it.
And I'll even argue that because there is an emotional side to the show, and it works best when it does come from that darkness, like the choice she has to make at the end, or in the last couple episodes. I really like it at some point. I can't remember what it is, but I think it's like when he's trying to teach her to be tougher and like she's gonna be this executioner and stuff. And I think at the very end.
Oh God, that episode.
Well, what she says at the end, something along the lines of, if you ever try to something again, I'm gonna like eat your insides with my buck teeth or something. And the king's like, that's my girl. And it's like, that's both really sick and dark, but it's kind of touching too. Like that's where I feel it works best. It's like, strangely enough, in that darkness, you can find these bits of heart.
The fact that executions, much like medieval times, are like entertainment.
Yeah.
When she's swinging the axe super slow, why is she swinging the axe so slow?
That made me laugh so hard.
I don't know, son. I'm watching the same execution that you are. I'm just as baffled.
I mean, what a great joke, because it's already kind of satirizing Braveheart with the axe slowly coming down, but then when they reveal it's in real time.
She's just doing it in real time because she's afraid to kill somebody.
Yeah. And again, it's very dark, it's very funny, and you know what it's satirizing.
When at the end he gives him, so the king gives himself the parenting of the year award. It's like, so I give this award, you think it's going to go to myself, for great parenting. It's a very Trump move.
Yeah.
I
feel the more of that darkness and the more of the continuing story you can do, with the exception of the comic timing, I say the more you can kind of distance yourself from Simpsons. I think the better. And I think they can. I want to see season 2. I can't say like I'm excited to see it. If they make these changes, I'm excited. But I want to see it.
I'm excited because I feel like if this is what they can do on their first round, and I enjoyed this well enough, maybe not be perfect, but I feel like if they can look at what's going on. I don't think Groening's an idiot. No. Like, he puts Simpsons and Futurama together. I think he can look at the criticisms and stuff and realize I'm doing this on Netflix now. Okay.
I actually want it feels like he was kind of his natural style of comedy.
Yeah, I feel like he was already going that route in the last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, they were just like, okay, let's get a story going. But it reminds me of that Castlevania anime that just came out, where it's like, it takes its time. It's still good, but, like, hopefully now that they're just like, okay, this to me is proof of concept. Okay, if the concept can work, okay, now season 2, let's really open shit up. And I hope they do the same with Castlevania. I can't wait for that.
I really hope in season 2, the first 2 episodes aren't just, all right, go on this grand adventure. There's Bean, there's everybody. Okay, back to the kingdom. I want them to travel. I want them to go out there. I want them to discover secrets. I want to discover there's a great big plot. I want to see
Game of Thrones where they all split up and they're going on.
That'd be great. That'd be wonderful. Take advantage
where they're going. Like
of your genre,
kind of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well, they're doing a bunch of different fantasies, which just opens it up so much. And it's like, why stay in this one town? Really branch out. So I'm hoping they do. If you're wondering whether or not to watch this show, I would say yes.
I enjoyed it.
It does drag a lot, but there's always just enough to kind of keep you going. There's always like the little carrot in front of you. Like, you keep going. It's like, you do get the carrot, and it's like, you're glad you made that journey. Just, you got to travel to get to it.
It's a perfect show. It's made for, like, once a night, throw an episode on, take a couple weeks to watch it. Binge watching it, I don't think is always the right move, just because you see the cracks much quicker.
Yeah, you see the repetition a little bit more. But then it's nice when they do vary something, and they do kind of get away from it. You kind of appreciate it even more. So, that's our take on it. Go watch it, see for yourself, and let us know, too. Because we've been hearing varying things about, like, everyone I've talked to, they're always like, yeah, it was good, like, a little clunky, but I'm glad I stuck with it. Like, that's usually what I get, but then on the internet, they're like, fuck this show! Oh, Groening's let us down!
Well, no, that's a weird thing. Everybody I knew hated it, and then when I posted on my private Facebook that I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, my expectations are lower, then all of a sudden I had other people in my friends groups coming out going, oh yeah, I love that show, it's really good. So I'm like, I don't know. It's like quite a split, but I think the people who really like it are just quiet about it, maybe.
I think it's... What do you think? In terms of first seasons, do you think it's a better start than Futurama? What are your thoughts? I think it's definitely a better first episode than Futurama. Futurama had a bad
Honestly,
first episode.
Yeah.
I
laughed more than I did in Futurama. Like,
the best
Futurama
of
to me-
Futurama is better than this first season, but it's like
hell
comparing
yeah.
the first two
Hell yeah.
seasons, I'm just kind of like, yeah.
I honestly,
would
from
like Disenchantment more.
like, watch the first season of Simpsons again.
Oh, well, the first
It was
season is
groundbreaking
a totally
for
different
its
show,
time,
yeah.
but yeah, it's just like, I think this is a way stronger product than either Futurama or the first season of Simpsons.
For a first season, yes.
For a first season,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think there's anything in this season of this show that beats classic Futurama, classic
or the best of
Simpsons at
Simpsons,
their
yeah.
height. Like, not even close yet. But I mean, I think the spark's there.
Yeah.
Like, you could get something really good out of this.
Yeah, so I want to see it keep going. So, yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below. I actually don't know. Like I said, we see YouTube videos saying, this show sucks, but then we talk to people like, yeah, it was okay. So let us know what you think. I mean, I'm curious what the reception of this show is. So that's about it. We'll see you next time. Later.
Did not expect that much blood out of that elf.